Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boschman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the numerology and the energy of September 2021. We're going to take a look initially at the energies that may surface for the collective, which we're all a part of, and then we'll take a deeper dive into your personal life path number. So let's go ahead and get started. So September is a 14-5 energy, which of course boils down to a 5 energetic cycle. But that 14 is influential, okay? So we need to keep that in mind, and I'm going to touch on the energies of the 14 as we move through the reading. But ultimately, this is a 5 energetic cycle. So we have a 5 universal year that we're currently moving through in 2021. And now that 5 energy is enhanced by a 5 universal month. So we can expect great changes that occur abruptly and without much notice. So if ever there were a time to be flexible and full of grace for self and others, it's during a 5 universal year coupled with a 5 universal month. So buckle up, baby, because it's about to get bumpy. But in a good way. Okay, so things under a 5 energy move very, very quickly because it's a fast-moving energy, right? So you may see incredible shifts and transformations within your life at this time. You may never have even seen these shifts coming, right? They just seem to come out of nowhere. This energy can sort of see people completely uprooting or changing their entire life story within the blink of an eye. This energy can often feel like a sort of greater power or higher power is sort of taking the wheel and taking over, and life is almost happening to you. Generally, where this ride takes you will lead you to the realization of, oh wow, I never would have thought to do that or to be this, but I'm so glad that I did, right? So it's like, again, it's like this higher power swoops in and hits fast forward on the story, and where you end up, you ultimately realize is a perfect place for you at that time, if that makes sense, right? So that realization may take some time to get to, but understand that when these big shifts come in, they come in to assist, not to penalize. This isn't vindictive energy, it's transformational. Both can feel incredibly challenging, right? To go through. So when someone's being vindictive, that's a challenging energy to go through. When you're going through some kind of transformation, that is also incredibly challenging at times. So however, the transformational energy will leave you in a better place from where you started. So you just need to keep that in mind. Whatever challenges you face, whatever you're going through, during this 5 energy that is transformational will leave you in a better place than where you started, okay? Even if it takes a little bit of time. So try not to fight this energy, but rather move with it and work with it the best that you can, okay? So speaking of the 14, remember I said 14 is going to have an influence in this energy because it's the influencing number to the 5. So under the influence of the 14, there's this emphasis placed on modification. So life may feel like it's happening to you at times, but you can always find ways to modify or work with the energy to make it work for you without fighting it. It's very possible that the modifications that come up for you at this time to be explored or, expanded upon are modifications to self, to relationships, to career, and to lifestyle that have needed to be adjusted for a while. So this isn't necessarily going to blindside you or be surprising, although for some people it might be, right? It might be one of those things where you're sort of stuck in your comfort zone, stuck in a relationship that's toxic, stuck in a belief system or a lifestyle that's toxic, and you don't realize that it needs to be modified or changed. So it might blindside you, right? It might come in quite swiftly and abruptly, and those modifications might be made. And again, it could feel like a whirlwind. But for the most part, these are going to be things where you kind of knew, you had some kind of a sense that they needed to go away, they needed to change, they needed to be modified, right? And chances are you've known that for a while. So this sort of double dose of 5 energy this month from the 2021 Universal 5 cycle year, and now this September 5 energy, is simply giving you the gentle shove in the direction you need to be facing, right? So that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. That doesn't mean it's going to be without its challenges. However, the struggles and challenges that you face and overcome during this time, or at least they're initiated during this time, through these modifications, will prepare you greatly for the magnificence you're about to step into, right? So again, it's like, it can feel challenging in the moment, but you just have to keep in mind, why is this happening? Why is this coming in? What is this challenge trying to show me? Try to ask yourself as often as possible, what is this challenge trying to show me? What am I meant to learn? Right? Why is this modification coming in now? Where is it trying to take me to, and why is it trying to move me beyond the space, right? Because there's always going to be, an answer there. There's always going to be wisdom to extract from that experience, no matter how challenging. And oftentimes the more challenging, the more wisdom to pull from it. So it's the wisdom of the experience that we're meant to carry with us, not the experience itself, right? Sometimes we get stuck up on the experience where we're like, oh, that really sucked, and now I'm going to think about it and complain about it and, sort of fret about it for the next 10 years. Whereas really what the universe is trying to get us to do is to extract the wisdom from that challenging experience and move freely forward, as opposed to trying to lug that whole experience with us forward and sort of replay it, rehash it, hold a grudge, whatever the case may be. So this is going to be a really quick moving, fast energy, with a lot of transformations, right? And so through that experience, not only are we meant to move ourselves through it and adapt, but we're meant to pull the wisdom from the experience, okay? So a lot going on this month. It's a very intense month. It's a very intense year, right? So I don't really see things slowing down until we get into 2022 at least, right? So if you're looking for a breather, you're probably not going to get it right away, but that's okay, because we're all in the same boat. This is universal energy, so we're all feeling this, baby. So again, proper handling of this 14-5 energetic vibration can produce great wisdom and understanding in your experience. 5 energy can be that of again, a testing nature. It's going to test us. It's going to sort of force us to take a closer look at the challenge, the situation, the modification, and where can we extract the wisdom. It's what we choose to do with this energy that will ultimately determine our overall experience, not only now, but moving forward. And so again, we have a lot of responsibility, but with great power comes great responsibility. So a 5 energetic cycle is also a perfect time to sort of check in with yourself. This is a checkpoint. See where any imbalances lie. What's working? What isn't? Where do I need to make modifications? What do I need to invest more into? So in numerology, where 1 energy is the beginning or the initiation, and 9 energy the completion or the ending, 5 energy sits in the middle, and it's the checkpoint. It creates the space and the opportunity to make the necessary changes needed before continuing on in the journey, to make certain that the direction we're moving in is the direction we actually want to be a part of, right? You don't want to get all the way to the 9 energy and be like, oh crud, I should have switched directions way back at that 5 energy. And so a lot of times the 5 energy doesn't force our hand. We always have choice, right? But it will make things very challenging or uncomfortable to help you see what you need to see, right? And so think of this as the checkpoint. This is why we can often see so many intense and abrupt changes, occur during a 5 cycle, because some of these changes we choose, Some of those changes are created for us by a higher power, but all serving to keep us aligned with our soul's highest mission in this lifetime. So the ego craves safety, security, comfort, and the known. The soul came here for so much more, right? If something feels as though it's being uprooted now, taken away, or there's a sense of upheaval, understand that true change is messy and chaotic at times, but on the other side of that chaos sits harmony, sits balance. So we can also see this playing out on the world stage quite dramatically at this time. So much change has to happen at this time in history, and it's during a 5 cycle that it can appear to be the most chaotic and the most messy. So by dismantling that which is no longer working, that takes some level of destruction and chaos, right, before the calm can enter. So that which is being dismantled often won't go without a fight, but it'll eventually lose steam and recede, right? And that's kind of, like I said, that's what we're seeing sort of play out on the world stage. We really started to see that in the 4 cycle of 2020. And now it's really coming to accumulation during this 5 cycle of 2021. And so I suspect that in September, we're going to see even greater manifestations of that chaos, of that dismantling, of those changes. Maybe not the change happening right away, but where it's highlighted where the change needs to happen. It becomes the front and center. There's no more denying it, right? So this 5 energy will ultimately teach us that the less we resist the change, the more comfortable the process of the change will feel and become. The more we resist the modifications and try to cling to what's no longer needed or no longer working, especially when it's harmful to ourselves or others, then the messier and the more challenging the experience becomes for all involved. So 5 energy teaches us to be flexible, to be adaptable to the inevitable changes and transformations that, it brings into our lives and that we ultimately face throughout our journeys. So allow September and this 5 energy to show you where modifications are needed within your life. Allow whatever changes that sweep in, to highlight for you where something was no longer working and needed an overhaul. If these changes aren't happening directly to you, perhaps you can hold space for those who find themselves immersed within this 5 energy. Perhaps you'll need to be the one creating the change in another person's experience, right? And so regardless, move as gently as possible and take full advantage of this incredibly transformational energy. It's here to help us with swift precision. So keywords this month to keep in mind as you move through this energy, perhaps it can be your mantra, is modification and adaptability. What do I need to modify and how can I be adaptable through the modification? Because I can almost guarantee that there's going to be a lot of modification either taking place this month or highlighted where it needs to take place. And then we're going to start to see that happening. And so the more adaptable that we can be, the more open we can be to the change, the more comfortable the experience will be, and the more that we will gain from the experience. Okay? All right, let's take a closer look at the life path number. Life path number 5. So I pulled in an animal spirit card for you all, and you got salmon spirit. And so what's interesting is I feel like for you all, this month is going to bring with it plenty of opportunities to plenty of choices, let's put it that way, where you have to use your discernment. This is your party, right? We're in a 5 universal year, we're in a 5 universal month, and 5 is your core life path number. So this is your energy, right? And so you can probably anticipate some changes, some shifts in direction. But I anticipate that there's going to be a plentiful amount of choices for you to make this month. But again, it comes back down to your discernment. And when salmon spirit comes in, it makes me think of like spawning season for salmon. And if you've ever seen the videos, which I'm sure you have, where they're fighting the current and they're going up against, the waterfall, or, basically fighting the current. They have to, basically risk their life, right? Get eaten by bears or hit a rock, or, or not make it up to the spawning area, right? It can be very challenging. And so you may feel an incredible amount of drive to do something, to accomplish some goal. And that's where your discernment needs to come in. Is this a time where you need to surrender and go with the flow? Or is this a time where you need to buckle down and, push forward against the odds and be the salmon who is fighting to get back to the spawning grounds that they go back to every single year for centuries, right? And so again, it's going to come down to what works for you, right? You have to decide. And there is no wrong decision, right? But you have to follow your inner knowing. If you start to go with the external noise, if you start to follow the crowd, then the result probably will be much less satisfying than had you followed your own intuition, had you, again, used your own discernment in deciding on what action to take and what to do, okay? So I feel like this month is going to bring up plenty of opportunities for you to decide, is this a time where I need to surrender and maybe take the initiative and then let the universe do its work? Or is this a time where I need to, go all out and really push to get the desired result, get the desired action, and reach my goal? And so again, it's going to come back down to you and what you decide. So that's really what I'm getting from salmon, is that you're going to know sort of intuitively or innately what it is that you need to do, what works for you, what is your truth, what is worth the risk, right? And what's not worth the risk, what's not worth the compromise. And you get to decide that. And then ultimately, whatever you decide will create the experience, okay? So use that discernment and that inner knowing. Okay, so I broke down the month into 4 weeks. The very beginning of the month, we have this energy of the need for like a shift in focus. It's kind of like you are hyper focused on something. This can be a belief set. This can be a mindset that is really keeping you sort of stuck. And it feels like that kind of energy, like a stuck sort of energy, where you feel like you have all the pieces, but things are just not moving. Or you feel like you have the full story and you're trying to make a decision off from that, but there's still something missing. There's still something you're not seeing. And I feel like that's going to come to light, but you need to broaden your perspective. And so this is going to be an opportunity for you to become the observer in the situation. This is not going to be a time where you need to be fully immersed in whatever the situation is. This is going to be a time where you need to reflect and you need to pull back a little bit and take a look at the bigger picture, because that's where you're going to see the missing information. That's where you're going to find the missing puzzle piece. And it's in doing that you'll be able to gain a lot more clarity. And I feel like when you do this, and again, this is going to require you to sort of, you may feel the pull to get involved in something, and that feels more like your ego driving, right? But really, you need to listen to your soul here. You need to kind of go within. You need to pull back and not get involved in the situation, and rather stand back as the observer so that you can make a more informed decision about whatever this is. But I feel like the information is there. It's just you're not seeing it because of this being hyper focused on, whatever's happening, or maybe you're too immersed into the situation. So that can be like a relationship, it can be your career, work, whatever. But if there's somewhere where you feel uncomfortable or you feel like things are not aligned, I think it's because you're too immersed in the situation and you need to pull out and sort of take a deeper, take a bigger perspective, take a bigger look at things and see things from sort of all sides before making a final decision. Okay. Because again, the information feels like it's there. It's just you're not seeing it because you're too absorbed in whatever this is. So just a different perspective, a broader perspective will really benefit you at this time, okay, during this first week. So try not to get overly consumed, try not to get too absorbed in other people's drama, in your own drama, and whatever's happening. Become the observer and everything will fall into place. Everything will make a lot more sense for you at that time. The second and the third week, we have beautiful, just wide open space, creative energy coming in for you all. This is a time where you can see sort of the tables turn. You can see an increase in your resources, your monetary gain, wealth, that sort of thing. Creative expression. This is a great time for creative expression. This is a time where you're in the driver's seat. You become sort of the magician of your own life. You become the one who has gathered all the resources, and now you get to play and figure out how you want to use those resources to create something of value for yourself, for your family, for the greater community, maybe even for the world. But this is going to be a very fertile, creative time for you mid-month. And it can include a lot of changes and a lot of taking risks. Again, think of salmon. You get to decide what's worth the risk, what's not worth the risk, where do you need to push harder? Where do you need to surrender to create or to do whatever this is? And I feel like you're going to have this sort of sense of justice, sort of like there's something that you've been wanting to accomplish or you've been working on, and it really hasn't shown you the fruits of your labor type thing up to this point. And it could be that you were getting ready to give up on it, but I feel like a new wave is coming in at this point that's going to, again, feel like justice is sort of being served. Like, okay, now I understand why this took so long. Now I understand why it couldn't have happened earlier. Now I understand what I needed to sort of acquire before I could fill in all the missing pieces. And so I feel like mid-month, second and third week, it's going to be a very highly creative time. I feel like you're going to have a lot of insights coming in. I feel like you can take advantage of those insights. You can take action on them, but you're sort of the creator of your story at this point specifically, right? And we always are. But this point, you're going to feel like doors are opening. You're going to feel like the people are coming in, the resources are coming in, the insights are coming in, and you can feel the confidence in taking action on whatever this is. But this is an incredibly creative time. What I will say is this is not a time where you need to wait on other people to show up, to do for you, to give you permission. This is a time where you need to take the reins and you need to go and you need to make it happen. Because this is a time when nobody's going to do it for you. You're going to see the people come in to help support you in whatever this is, right? But you have to say yes. You have to take the initiative. You need to say go, right? So sort of like an example of this would be like you get the green light on a project and all of a sudden you get all the funding that you need. You get, like I said, everything just kind of comes into place for you to stand at the helm of the ship and have full creative freedom and be able to, again, create what it is that you want to create. So, but you need to commit to it and let the universe know that you're ready for it. And you will see those people come in, those experiences come in, the resources come in to be able to assist you. But this is incredibly, like I keep saying, this is incredibly creative time. And so this is going to be right up your alley, fives. Again, just that level of freedom. And yeah, so, and just that feeling of like that the work that you've put in or the effort that you've made has served a purpose, if that makes sense. So this is really good powerful energy. The fourth week, this entire month is going to be about you saying yes or saying no, but using your discernment to follow your own truth. And we see that very, very strongly this fourth week. So basically, this is going to be a time where, you might get some kind of communication or clarity that comes in, and you're going to need to make a very solid decision, right? A very firm decision. And this feels like a non-negotiable thing. So it's kind of like, I don't know. So maybe you get some kind of a job offer or something like that, and you either need to say yes and commit to it, or if you say no, it's going to somebody else and you sort of miss out on that opportunity, right? There's no right or wrong, because whatever decision you make will create the experience, right? And so you'll just experience something else. But this feels like clarity coming in on something that you've sort of been waiting for, and you need to make a very firm decision on whatever this is. And again, I would say follow your own truth, follow your own autonomy, and make that decision based on what you need in this moment, right? So don't necessarily overly compromise on what you need for what somebody else wants. This is going to be a time where you need to follow your own truth to make that decision. But this feels like a time for decision making, like an answer needs to be given, whatever this is. And so, yeah, just follow your own insight, that inner compass, because that's where it's going to lead you to the direction your soul wants to go into, right? So I just kind of see you really kind of stepping in your power this month as far as making decisions that work for you, right? So not going against the grain or swimming upstream when you don't have to, not making things more complicated when they don't need to be. The more that you can sort of recognize when it's appropriate to surrender and go with the flow, and when it's appropriate to go against the tide, right? Fives are known for having sort of that unconventional thinking where you can see the bigger picture. And so this is probably going to be a month where you're going to have to think outside the box, take action outside the box, be unconventional, think unconventionally, see that bigger picture, and not be easily influenced by those around you or be easily pressured by those who are trying to force you to do something or influence you in some way. This month is going to be about you taking control, you taking over your own life, like standing in your own autonomy, and just expressing yourself in the way that feels good for you. This month is going to be very much about that. And I think that you're going to probably see the rewards for that in the months that follow. So, this is a time to step into your 5 big energy. And I mean, it's so supported. Again, we've got 5s all over the place at this time. So this is definitely your party. And I like to see this. Like I said, it's 5s sometimes have to sort of be aware of moderation and not falling into extremes. But I feel like this month, even though it's going to be very big energy, you can still find your center and your moderation through the process while staying true to yourself, okay? And I don't see 5s as being easily intimidated by big energy because, your energy is so big and fast moving anyway. But I definitely see this as a time where it's like you're getting to step into your creative force, right? Like your life force, and stand up and stand out. And so I love this energy for 5s. Actually, it's really powerful, and you could find it to be very social as well. You could find yourself out in society, in the spotlight in a big way as well. So, or you could be behind the scenes making things happen at this point, and that spotlight will come down the road. But either way, this is a really powerful month for you all, where you really need to, again, use your discernment, follow your own truth, because that's what's going to, that's what is going to lead you to your higher octave. Okay. So I hope it's a beautiful month for you all. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Bye for now.